Hello, everyone. Welcome to Road to Etoudi, your favorite political program dedicated to helping Cameroonians make informed decisions ahead of the presidential election scheduled for the 12th of October 2025. My name is Mefo, and I am going to be your host as usual. We are less than 45 days to the presidential election in Cameroon, and momentum is already building amongst opposition party members that are participating in the upcoming presidential election. So far, we have 12 candidates and they are preparing already. We can hear from several candidates making a lot of moves, even though it's not official yet that the campaigns are ongoing, but we can see a lot happening within the ranks of the various opposition parties, as well as the incumbent President Paul Biya's CPDM party. We know that he is seeking another term in office, even though he is 92. So here on Road to A2D, we are talking to candidates. We get to also educate the voters. We talk to the various presidential candidates to understand where they come from. And in today's edition, we are going to be focusing on one of the key opposition parties in Cameroon, and it is also a party that is participating in the upcoming presidential election. The Social Democratic Front Party has a lot in store for Cameroonians, but today we are going to be focusing on something very, very particular, which is the form of the state. It's been talked about a lot by the various presidential candidates, but when the SDF talks of federation, what does it mean to ordinary Cameroonians? What exactly are they going to be proposing, and what would they be doing differently from what has existed before in Cameroon? What would they be doing differently also to change things and to make things look different from what is existing in the country today? So we are going to be finding out from our guests. He is Benjamin Fru Ndi. Benjamin Fru Ndi is a member of the National Advisory Council, the NAC, and a former Grand Council of the Bamenda II Council in the Northwest region of Cameroon, and he is one of the young pillars of the Social Democratic Front Party. And of course, he is our guest tonight. Mr. Benjamin, are you there? Thank you so much for joining us today on Road to Etoudi.
It's a pleasure to be on your platform, Mimi. Thank you, and good evening to you and to the fellow viewers of your wonderful channel, this wonderful program which you've carefully curated to ensure that our fellow Cameroonians are not only engaged, but listen, understand in order to make informed choices about this very critical assignment which is coming up on the 12th of October.
So you're here under the banner of the Social Democratic Front. It's one of the parties participating in the upcoming presidential election. And today you'll be clarifying Cameroonians on a specific topic, because the manifesto is a lot in the manifesto, and we need to really break it down. And we'll get the opportunity, if you permit us, to talk about it detailedly, what exactly your plans are for Cameroonians. But before we start discussing, today's topic, this is the first time that the presidential election in Cameroon is taking place since the death of Ni John Fru Ndi. May so rest in peace. What are your feelings about the election taking place for the first time in his absence? How are you feeling about it?
Well, Mimi, thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity once again to be on this platform. It's surreal sometimes to imagine that a moment like this would have ever come. But as is the nature of things, all good things do come to an end. All good lives well spent on earth are later on called back home to their maker. Our father and founder, National Chairman Ni John Fru Ndi of blessed memory, is not here with us. But before he left, he made sure that he had done what was necessary in educating us, in teaching us, in holding our hands, in lifting up leaders, in order that the day when his race is run, someone will take the mantle to continue the battle. The battle, it was never about an office. It was never about a prize for a particular position. It was about bringing profound change to the people of Cameroon. And so that where we find ourselves today with the kind of challenges that we still face, poor road networks, lack of electricity, and the myriad of things, the social tensions that we have in our country, it only means that the challenge is still there and that work needs to be done. Now, with the kind of foundation that he laid and with the work that he did selflessly, going around Cameroon, educating the people, holding their hands, selling a vision of hope, selling a program for change, not just change for the sake of change, but a systemic change in order to give people an opportunity to participate. We believe that if Cameroonians ever looked up to him, then that challenge must keep going. And that is the reason why myself, as a member of the party, I am not turning my back because our founding leader is not there. We are an institution with well-structured, there are several levels of structure with a very strong ground followership. Our job is to ensure that we keep working for the good of the Cameroonians.
That's good to know. So today I want us to talk about the form of the state and what the SDF is proposing to change things when it comes to this particular topic. It's a contentious topic. Many Cameroonians are talking about it and really looking at what the various candidates are proposing. I've had a series of interviews so far, and after the interviews, so many questions keep coming up. People keep asking a lot of questions, and I wonder, can we ever exhaust this topic, and what is the way forward? The SDF has proposed federation as a solution. What kind of federation is the SDF talking about? Is this the two-state federation that existed before things changed? Or is it maintaining the 10 regions that are existing in Cameroon, but with more autonomy? What exactly does the SDF mean by that?
Mimi, I would like, first of all, to clarify something that keeps coming up about the form the federation takes. And let us first of all focus on the term federation, which is basically decentralizing power, giving people power, including people in the governance structure, ensuring that money, the ability to operate, first of all, goes down to the base, to engage the base, to engage local communities in their communal activities and development, to ensure that politics is not for a select group at a certain point, but it is an engagement of whole communities. The choices people make as politicians affect whole communities. So these communities have a right to be engaged in this political debate, to make choices, and to see where their resources, which are contributions from their taxes, are being spread to ensure that they have functional communities. So as to how you go about to put in place that federation, that is now where the technical bits start coming in. But to say we have, from the beginning of the launch of the party, we put forward a federal system of governance, breaking away from the current central, over-centralized. I must even emphasize to say it is hyper-centralized, where nobody is accountable for the myriad of things that we face as a people, but yet we are forced to keep going along with them and cheering them on. So the first challenge, which these fine gentlemen who founded the party in 1990, founding the party on the 26th of May 1990 didn't mean that's when the conversations began. It was a public manifestation of conversations that had taken effect behind the scenes over several years. They had discussed and aired frustrations. In these frustrations, people found resignation, but the reality of their lives back then still hit them in the face. In this case, our founding chairman was a businessman. he experienced the challenges on the highways with constant checkpoints. He, as an English-speaking Cameroonian, was challenged with the marginalization that was widespread at the time, as well as the other professors and doctors who were teaching in the various universities across the country. You had Dr. Zefo, who was in CAST at the time and equally teaching in Yaoundé. You had the late Dr. Siga Sanga, who equally was a university don in Yaoundé, and a whole host of others, economists. And so they moved from a point of complaining to putting down an institution that will ensure that Cameroonians are no longer suffering from the stranglehold of power, but are participating in ensuring that they get the development and they get the government that they desire. And that is why in the preamble of the party, it starts with national unity. It starts with giving dignity back to the Cameroonian people. It talks about political cohesion. These are not, they were not just words as they are used today just for the fanfare of things, but that in the presence of so much frustration, the people are losing touch with the country. People feel like they are Cameroonians by a tag, but the country doesn't look after them, the country doesn't engage them, and they don't feel as one people. So the SDF put forward a system of governance, which was to put at the heart of this governance the people, democracy, through a federal system. Let local authorities be the prime managers of the activities at the local level. And as we have evolved over time to getting to our current political program, which you have had the opportunity to read, we have evolved this process to explain to people how we will execute this program of federalism. It's through a process called subsidiarity. So what a local council cannot do, I will have opportunity to talk about some of the things that have occurred as a local councillor in Bamenda too, and as a grand councillor in the Bamenda City Council. How we at that level we struggle to deliver on very simple basic things, not because we could not do them, but because we're being stifled by a system that doesn't adequately equip these local authorities to perform at that level. So what a local council cannot do, it is then passed on to as a competence to the regional or provincial or whatever the people will come together to define what the second level is. And then you will have at the third tier, the federal government, who will be at that point in charge of issues of national interest, right? Our diplomacy, the national army, and all those significant sovereign ministries or organs that can only be managed at the level of the national. But down to things as basic as water. It cannot be that we sit in our various localities and we are waiting for an approval for a project to be executed from a central government at this locality. It has stifled development at the base to such frustrating levels that people go around in feeling left out from the country.
Yeah, so this is something that is very interesting to note, and thank you for that detailed explanation about how important and how far the SDF can go in implementing the policy of federalism. But someone watching, because it's so easy to say local authorities should be able to implement that, power should be decentralized, power should be given to local authorities. Local authorities have been there. We have mayors, we have local delegates, we have local authorities in the various regions of Cameroon. When someone in Kumba, for instance, is watching us tonight, someone in Limbe, in Bamenda, someone in Mankon even, someone in somewhere in Douala is watching, they would ask themselves, how would that federation benefit me every day? What would you tell them? What would you tell someone who is just an ordinary Cameroonian who is watching us tonight? How would that federation benefit them?
So, Mimi, our country votes a budget at the end of every year to start a financial year the following year. And in this budget, they are assigned certain aspects which have to do with what they call localities. In these localities, we have issues of education, of health, of public utilities. Now, imagine I'll take the case of Bamenda 2, where I was a local councillor. Now, the distribution of water in the locality is being managed by a by a national corporation. But within the laws of decentralization, the production and distribution of water is an attribute to the local authority, except that the local authority does not have the means to develop these water sources and to distribute these water sources. Every time a project of that magnitude is brought up, you need to apply for a grant from another state institution called FECOM for them to review and approve before you are able to execute some of these projects. On the other hand, the central government through the ministry goes on to take on sovereign loans and foreign debt in order to finance some of these projects. But the beneficiary of these projects is unaware. First of all, they've gone for several months without water, and they actually do not know who to hold accountable for the lack of potable drinking water at their homes, despite the fact that as workers or as contributing members of society, tax-paying members of society, these things are due them. And it's not a gift, but it's a paid service. So at the very minimum, you need a local authority that is capable of providing these local services. Water is life. It's a basic necessity, but in a significant places in Cameroon, people do not have access to potable water. That is the level our country is still trying to come above. Now, when we talk about a local authority that has the competence, the government is supposed to, in a federal system, they provide to these local authorities every local authority as will be agreed by the people. The number of local communities we have, whether we call them local government areas or we call them municipal councils, whatever name we choose to give them, when that consultation happens and how we choose the federal system to function, these authorities will be given a budgetary allocation, and with these basic aspects to be managed at that level. Now, through this, when people do not enjoy the benefits of public services like water, they have somebody to go up. They go to the local council and say, in our community, we've not had water, or the water is not of good quality. But today, when you go, you can lay a complaint at either the call it INEO for electricity services, or Camp Water for water in some of the towns, and nobody, it would just be a complaint on paper. There is nobody who is held accountable for that. And in the case of Bamenda 2, that was a significant problem. One morning we got up and half of the town was broken to lay pipes to carry water from another water source to connect the central holding.
So in that case, people are holding a mayor instead of the local authority who should be in charge of making sure that water is provided and electricity. That's interesting. That's interesting. So the SDF has also proposed a semi-presidential system. When I was looking when I was looking at your manifesto, you were proposing a semi-presidential system.
Parliamentary system.
Yes. So what does this really mean? Does it mean that the the president is going to just be symbolic and most of the power goes to the prime minister, or
Not,
who is going to be holding the real power here?
not at all. Mimi, the critical thing about a federal system of governance is accountability. Who is accountable to who? If the people have a problem, who do they raise their issues to? We have parliamentarians that were voted, as it is the case in our country now. These parliamentarians represent the national constituency, have a responsibility to debate, vote laws of the republic. But these laws only become active with a presidential decree. So not until the chief executive signs one of these laws into action, it remains on paper. And that is why decentralization was in the 96 constitution, that it had not been enacted because the presidential decree to put in place this decentralization, which was a watered down form of the federal option which we had pushed for in the 90s, could not even be put in place because the signature of one person held back the people from even having access to 20% of these decentralized powers. Now, with a semi-parliamentary system, the parliamentarians are not just there to vote and clap for these laws, but they are there to scrutinize government action. The president has a responsibility to present these projects before the parliament to seek approval. So there is a constant check and there's a balance of power. We don't want to find ourselves stifled, not knowing where somebody is, and as a result, everything in the country is brought to a standstill because one person who was given the responsibility by the Cameroonian people to work on their behalf is absent from the political scene. So in a semi-parliamentary system of those sorts, ministers who today, I was very interested by some of the remarks the Honorable Minister Issa Chiruma made on your program, where he said they wait for the instructions to come from above, and that the accountability goes back to he who was given the responsibility by the people. So you can imagine the rate at which ministers have gone around doing things in the name of the people, engaging communities in the name of the people, but without any accountability. Just again, yesterday or the day before, you had the Minister of Urban Development, Madame Kecha Cortez, saying publicly, without any form of assurance, we will give a social housing per Bensikin rider. I mean, these are those false promises.
Is that even practical? Is that practical? That's not something that's
coming
practical.
From the Minister of the Republic.
Mm.
It is not coming from an individual. As a politician who is selling change, a program of change, these are the things that make our political scenario a joke. It's because we take the people for fools. If a minister of that sort can make such a remark without even considering the weight of these proposals, then where are we as a people? Where are we as a country? How do we measure that they're able to deliver on these kind of projects? Those projects, for the weak and for those who are desperate for these handouts, they will buy into them in false hope. And the next day, you have this negativity which politics today in general in Cameroon is suffering from, where they say politicians are all a bunch of liars. It is because people make those kind of ridiculous statements in public, selling false dreams and hopes to people without any accountability. And that is why we're fighting or trying to push through a federal system of governance that can hold public officials, political officials, people given the trust to lead the country, accountable for the actions they take at all levels.
And it's good that we have the SDF. We have people like you who can come out and contradict some of these utterances from officials that are not factual, that a minister who is not even an authority in a particular locality, she is not even a minister of finance, would go and say that they'll be giving bikes and houses to some particular individuals. She didn't say which budget of the state will be used to do that. And there's no one coming out openly to say this is wrong. So I'm glad that you were able to mention that. But also,
Permit me to
yes.
just take it one step further. Imagine for a second that indeed they go ahead to give these free bikes to people and start a housing project. From what budget head did that come from? It means, therefore, that that is exactly why we have a rubber stamp parliament in place today, which we must change into a parliament that is able to look into these kind of areas. So is she saying that there is a budget sitting somewhere that they were waiting for a moment like this to just lavishly throw at people? Meanwhile, roads are impassable in the economic capital of the country. Meanwhile, we are unable to collect dirt in the capital of the republic of our beloved country. It is really sad. These are the things that we must put an end to. And come October 12, we are hoping that people will come alive, conscientize, and engage to bring about the change that we need in our country.
Okay, so when the Social Democratic Front is talking about mayors and governors being elected, what is going to happen to SDOs and DOs as well as regional council presidents? What is going to happen to them?
So that current setup falls within a central system of governance, which is one of the things we've been decrying a lot: the designation of a signature to people who do not have the responsibility for that signature. When the crises come, when the people suffer for the choices they make by designation of signature, they are put behind, and nobody they are not held accountable for those actions. And that is why we think if a mayor is given a mandate by the people to govern. Now, when the SDF ran in 1996, we won most of the councils in the major towns. Mimi, the government in place, people need to understand how much they have invested to stifle the Social Democratic Front from bringing about change in the country. We won the councils of Limbe, Boya, Bamenda, Bafoussam, Kongsamba, Yaoundé, where they changed the results in order to impose a candidate on the people of Yaoundé. We won in the east. We won the council area of Betois, and all across the Grand South. In the wake of these massive victories in the north, the UNDP won in Yaoundé, I must say this. In the wake of these massive victories after the 96 local elections, it became obvious that the opposition was controlling close to 80% of the major cities and towns of the country. What did the central government do? What did President Biya do? He imposed government delegates on all these major cities who were given a designation of signature to operate as the chief executives of these council areas. So you have an elected representative who has a responsibility to the people, but does not have the signature of engagement for financing, or does not have the authority to execute a project unless it is in tandem with an appointed administrator at that local level. And they stifled all forms of development and growth. And so people kept asking, so is this the council we fought to win, and now we don't even have the basic things that you people promised us? But it was done deliberately in order to render the councils ineffective. So despite that, you had those who lifted up their heads, understood what was at stake, and engaged. You have in the case of the Kumbo Council, they were able to develop their water distribution system. In Bamenda 3 today, the mayor has been able, despite the hurdles and all what was put in place to make him fail, he's been able to develop a Bamenda 3 water community water project, which provides community water across 80% of the Bamenda 3 Council. These are some of the significant things that have been done. In many other councils, for instance, the only council today in Cameroon with a digitalized civil status registry is the Council of Douala 1. And it was put in place by the former mayor, Mayor Lolin Njakwa. That was an SDF front council. These were the things we were trying to put in place. How do we make civil status a process that is easy? Today, you have a majority of rural women without access to civil status. These are the things that people have been stuck. So some people, and now you start understanding the frustration at the level. If you do not have access to a basic document as simple as a birth certificate, which is the base to which you can have a national ID card, how do you count yourself Cameroonian?
Yeah, the birth certificate, ID card, passports it's really another big issue in Cameroon. A very, very big issue.
It's easier to get a passport for them to kick you out of the country. But to get a national ID card is become the most impossible process for a Cameroonian, a proud Cameroonian to obtain. It just tells you that these things are not mistakes. They're deliberate actions in order to hold us back.
So how would local elections ensure that governors, because we are talking about governors and mayors, actually listen to the people and not their bosses from Yaoundé? Because right now, let me just take an example in my field as a journalist. We've also sent out interview requests to members of the government, asking them, we want to hear from you. Cameroonians want to hear you defend the 92-year-old man that you want him to stay in power after 43 years. The responses we are getting, it has to go through Yaoundé. You have to send an invitation. You have to send an interview request to Yaoundé. We've never been able to understand as journalists why it is almost difficult to hold a local authority in Cameroon accountable. So how would you make it easier for citizens to hold local authorities like governors and mayors accountable, and that they wouldn't need to listen to orders from above or from Yaoundé?
Mimi, and therein lies what the problem, our challenge we are trying to fix come October 12th actually hits home. For the last close to 70 years of the life of the Republic, we have been led by a junta that was put in place by the outgoing colonial masters. It was never a politically engaged union fighting for an interest. They were the people who fought, as you say, east of the Mungo for the independence of Cameroon with the UPCs. Time came closer to the time all of them were wiped out, were assassinated, were publicly eliminated. And so the political class that fought with a vision for progress, for development of the country was taken out, and a group was just put in place. In 1959 is when they created the School for Administration to train people to administer. They were not trained to listen. They were not trained to be a part of a community. They were trained to be the bosses of people. And that is the same, that is the DNA, that is the backbone that has existed till today. They are all trained to take instructions from above and govern people and administer to people without listening or paying attention to the realities that obtain on the ground. And that is why we must reverse where these powers emanate. When a person owes his power of office to an electorate, to a group of people who have engaged in their communities, in their society, the responsibility, that letter of order will come from the base. You will not wait for Yaoundé to inform you on what you need to do. You will be informing Yaoundé that in failing to engage on this matter, these are the potential fallouts. This is where we'll be. And again, we had a political problem. We have a political problem about our union. For too long, they flashed the card as if the SDF's #1 agenda in proposing federalism was to separate the country in order to give give a dog a bad name to hang it. But unfortunately for them, in playing that card, they instead brought out the worst of things. Because down to when you look at the beginning, the early shots of the crisis, it was a question of sitting down to dialogue with lawyers. It was a question of dialoguing with teachers. It was a question of dialoguing with market women and men. We had a problem of collection of dirt. At the same time, the whole town was in a total mess. But nobody wanted to take responsibility because nobody, not the people who were complaining are not the people who put them there. Their powers will come from the people. Now, imagine
the people have that power also to take out someone or an official who is not competent or who is performing poorly.
In a semi-parliamentary system, you have the power, the parliament has the power to impeach a president. Today, we do not have access to even call a vote of no confidence on someone who has been given the mandate to govern. And we are not seeing where the person is. We are only seeing signatures. And in many cases, as has been proven, even from within, with the fallout, because today, if you talk about former members of government who have been members of government for at least 30 years of the 43 that this regime has been in power, if they are complaining today that they do not have access, it should tell you how significant and how deep this problem runs. So who is taking the decisions that affect our lives today? Do those people have, do they have the right to take those decisions? And how did we get to this point? It is only possible through a system. So our candidate today, Honorable Joshua Osi, we're not presenting we're not trying to replace a king with another king. We are here to put in place a system that is accountable first to the people that matter, the people of Cameroon, giving power back to the people, to the base where it truly belongs. We do not want to have a system where we are constantly waiting on one person. We are constantly waiting for a signature. We trust ourselves. Political engagement, when the people come together, when the people discuss, they best understand their problems, they best know the solutions. The societies they found themselves in, their natural and local solutions to this problem. Just give them the means, support them. That is what a government is supposed to do, to work with these people in order to deliver on some of these simple challenges that communities face. Meaning there are communities in Cameroon that have never seen an inch of tar road. I mean, I'm talking about a local council. I'm not talking about a village. A local council area that since post-independence has not had 1 kilometer of tarred road. How simple or how difficult can it get for us to be able to deploy basic things like access to drinking water, electricity to a vast majority of rural areas, education, health, and all these things that create a community, that make it enviable for us not to live out of our country, but to work within our country? How difficult when we have the local skill, we have the local capacity, and above all, I mean, you have heard, have seen, have read of the vast intellectual pool Cameroon enjoys outside the country. Are you telling me that the best of these people can only be deployed in the places they found as safe haven, and that skills could not be employed for the betterment of their kith and kin? It is just because the environment does not allow for these people to participate in their well-being and in their governance. And that is why we must break this system. We are about a system change to move from this hyper-centralized system that benefits a gang of friends who have taken the regime hostage, who have taken the country hostage, who today will tell you that there's no money, but the next minute they are flashing promises and doing big, beautiful parties for themselves, but the very basics are absent. These are the things we require as a party.
So the SDF program is also talking about local police. Can you tell us whether and is it going to be in every region, and how would you make sure that these local police are respecting human rights?
So the issues of national security are a competence to the federal institution, to the federal structure, so the army, which we intend to harmonize and not play it as we currently see, as if we have a very fragmented national military, but to ensure that, yes, the various corps are respected, that we have a national military that we are proud of, and that fights and works and protects its citizens. That said, when it comes to communal issues, what we are proposing is not a police force but a local community policing force for traffic problems, for ensuring that these issues of pilfering and little petty crimes of that nature, but they are not to carry heavy arms in order to intimidate and abuse the rights of people, but to work with the local community to ensure that the people respect the public norms, people respect the laws of that local community, and they are there to harmonize the community, just to ensure that the people feel protected, feel safe. They are a point of contact in case people are in need of help, as is in other advanced countries. The police should not be coming and people are running away. So, but if you have a communal-driven police force which works to ensure that there is harmony, peace, cohesion within the community, and they are the first responders to crisis, then it goes a long way to help. We've seen all sorts of cases of rape, and petty crimes that happen in communities that people did not have quick access on how to contact these local policing forces. Now we are trying to give an opportunity for people to feel the national police in a more personal way, and for us to develop more safe neighborhoods across the country. So it's a people-driven force for harmony within communities.
And when they break the law, who holds them accountable?
It starts from the local helplines are created, methods by which you can raise the problems that are being brought about by these people, but when they don't respect or are not being held to the high standard that we expect of them. And at that level, at least some of these issues can be addressed. It's not going to be beautiful and rosy for starters, but these are the aspirations we have for a functional community or country.
So how is federalism going to help solve the Anglophone crisis?
The Anglophone crisis is a deep political problem. It didn't start in 2016. It started when a quick action was taken which did not uphold a gentleman's agreement. Now, a lot has happened and we have evolved to a certain space in the country where the problems that we face as a people are suffocating us from all angles. So we are proposing a method to arrive at at finding lasting solutions that will ensure the actual cohesion our founding fathers voted for. There was indeed a vote for Cameroon to be reunited as we know it. That was done in good faith. It was campaigned in order that we said we wanted our brothers east of the Mungo to reunite with the brothers on the west of the Mungo. That was done in good faith. But what went wrong and why did that go wrong? And that's why we're proposing with immediate effect to set in motion a peace, a truth, and a reconciliation committee and a program, in order that first people should be able to know the truth about the history of Cameroon. Because as a journalist, I am certain in your period during the hot days at the beginning of the crisis, you started understanding that one significant problem was people were not up to date or did not know the truth about the history of our country. The history of Cameroon needs to be told on a very sincere, in a very open way, for people to understand where we've come from. To know where we want to go to is to know where we've come from. Let us first of all have the truth said about the history of our beloved country. Let us be able to reconcile ourselves in the knowledge of this truth. Because once the truth is told, I feel that people will find healing within themselves and start charting a way forward. In the reconciliation, we believe peace will flow naturally, long-lasting peace, not just the silencing of guns. We don't want to silence guns that are buried in the ground to be unearthed tomorrow to continue the shooting, because we are not touching the heart of the problem. So we want a truth commission, a peace commission, a reconciliatory commission, and these commissions will build up to, at the beginning, remember, in 1990, upon the launch of the party, the national chairman and founding members of the Social Democratic Front called for a sovereign national conference. It was in order that the truth be told, that Cameroonians find themselves around a table to discuss frankly across the table and agree on certain things, to agree that things are not going in a particular way. Unfortunately, that was another talk show they used, and they just flashed things around. And the results we all know. The results even being the 1996 Constitution, which a significant amount of the laws in that 1996 Constitution were only put in motion by 2017 after the shedding of blood. Do we, in a system that can hold people accountable, that would never have been the case. It would not have taken 20 years to put in place discussions that were held in good faith for the progress of the country. So in a nutshell, what we are asking for is that we would roll out a process of talking across the board with Cameroonians talking to each other, healing the wounds, and even though the scars will exist, but that at least we are all on the same page, we are all on the same wavelength, and we chart the way forward as a people.
So before this discussion, when we put out the announcement that we're going to discuss the form of the state, many people already know where the SDF stands, that it's federalism. But people some of them believe that they are being compelled into accepting federalism, whereas they have other options, which is why some Cameroonians believe that a referendum should be an option. Is that something that the SDF will consider doing for the people to decide what form of the state they would want if the SDF is selected?
Certainly, the culmination of these talks, we are not preaching as if we will impose on the people a certain format. The fine-tuning of the format will be defined by the people, but we are saying we will create the enabling environment to ensure that these conversations begin, these consultations begin, and we put everything on the table in order that we chart a way forward that actually resolves the problems of the country. So in order to have the green light, it will be through a referendum by the people, a referendum with the people, in order that the government is empowered in order to put in place the form that the people have agreed. The number of states and all the other peculiarities of what that federal system of governance will be. It will be the decision of the people. We are not know-alls, and that is exactly what we have been decrying. That you cannot have people who constantly take decisions on behalf of a country, but the results are the kind of social crisis, the kind of economic crisis, the kind of political crisis that we have lived for over 43 years, and they keep on imposing a particular way of doing things and saying that it's working. It is a denial of sorts that we must put an end to. And with our candidate, Honorable Joshua Osei, come October 12th, we begin that we believe we will be flipping the page and have starting from a fresh page where we put the people in central focus. There are a number of emergency actions he will take from day one in order that we start railing things back in order that we start putting some structure, and in order that we pave a way in order to deliver on this significant process of engaging the people to make a choice that reflects the realities of the country.
Interesting. So let's look at the economy and infrastructure within the context of federalism. Will regions be allowed to raise their own taxes or revenue for local development, or everything will be decided at the level of the state, and then maybe the House of the National Assembly, as we are seeing the budget being voted, or is it going to be done at the local level?
No, that is a competence at the federal level, because the national development is not a question that can be handled only at the level of local actors. We want to ensure that we have equitable and equal development across the country. The beauty of one place should reflect in the efficiency of another. So in order to harmonize our development, in order that areas are not falling behind and others are advancing, there will be a harmonization of our national development, which includes, in this case, how do you fund such development attributes. As you can understand, some of this funding will come from foreign partners. A local authority will not necessarily have the access on those in such a case to contract such development funds on behalf of the whole country, but all of these will come through the federal government. And the federal government's responsibility at this point is to ensure that the local authorities have access to these development funds. There will be certain peculiarities to certain regions. Developing our tourism sector, which is a significant income earner for the country that has been left untapped for several years, is one of those things which certain areas have a lot to offer the continent and the world at large. And so these investments will come through a federal government, through a federal system, in order to develop some of these resources that will benefit the whole nation. So taxation, issues of financial management will be the competence of the federal government.
So there's just so much to discuss, but we would want to wind up, because we'll certainly have to have this conversation again. But sure. One important point is the SDF says that it will cut ministries from 65. Which ministries would remain at the federal level?
Well, again, I always say our national defense is an issue of a federal competency. Our foreign relations and management of those engagements with other international bodies is a federal competency. There will be certain that we will define based on priorities, which will have this federal status, and others at local level. Education, for instance, today we're breaking higher and lower, it's a higher and secondary education, and so which has created a multiplicity of institutions or ministries, which in most of the cases, as you've seen, are just there in order to give some people employment, as we say. In the case where some people have also resigned, you find that these ministries are functioning even without a ministerial appointment to that competence or to that ministry. It should already indicate to the people that you don't need a ministry broken and set apart for these things as it is, but you can organize it in a way, especially when we will transfer these competencies down to the local level, you will not need this duplicity of services at the national level. So,
yeah. Okay, so do we have a question from someone there? They're asking that what would the opposition be doing to make sure that the elections are not rigged? Or maybe the question should be, what can they do?
Right, Mimi, thank you for that. I honestly will seize this opportunity to announce to you today that our national chairman and presidential candidate, Honorable Joshua Osi, today signed a very significant memorandum of understanding and call it a coalition with 11 of the teachers trading union who have, after reading our program, understanding what the mission is, the mission to save Cameroon, understanding, seeing the level of detail we have gone to in providing solutions and not just being a talk party and raising promises in the sky that we cannot hold to, have presented themselves to work with us on this journey to October 12 in support of our mission and our vision, and above all, to help us fulfill our obligations at the polls. We already had put in place a system on how to secure the vote. We've been making a lot of rounds on these things, especially when it came to the matter of a coalition. We said a coalition, first of all, comes from a shared agenda of change, a shared agenda of vision. The point that somebody is in the race doesn't necessarily make that person an ally. We have been speaking to a broad base of allies, the trade unions, the workers' unions, and other significant parties and actors on the field who do not necessarily hold a particular political connotation. These people understand what is at stake, and we already had been putting together this coalition. Once again, that was in the case with Kalamo, the Cameroon Labour Movement, which had over 3/4 of the trade unions join us in order to walk this journey with us. Today, the teachers' union have stepped up and said they would be a part, they will walk this journey with us in order that we fulfill the obligation of securing the vote. The important thing, and that is the problem, I would seize that opportunity to touch on something. Few days back, a very ridiculous news headline goes, Cameroon opposition, the most stupid. It is really unfortunate. The newspaper in question, you know very well, is a paid piece that says sorts of things. 1 minute, they're advertising one person as the Dauphin or the potential next of kin of the president. Next minute, they are advertising this and all of that. 1 minute, they are talking about, I mean, they have the following headline after that is, and I'm talking about Jeune Afrique Economy. The next moment, they are talking about that somebody being held in jail today is the one who has paid the caution for the president, or is supposedly the person who paid the caution for the president. And they do not find or take exception to that kind of a headline. It tells you the type of newspaper that is, and all they are trying to do is water down the effect of the opposition in Cameroon. Cameroonians need to wake up to this. For 43 years, this regime has not believed in a multi-party dispensation. When the SDF was launched in 1990, it was not launched because they liked it or they wanted it. They stormed the stage. The chairman was blocked along with members of the party from launching the party. When they eventually broke all orders and went ahead to launch this the SDF, people know exactly what happened in Bamenda. Before that point, across the country, there were marches by members of the ruling regime today in the name of Dimabola, refusing a multi-party dispensation. This regime does not want people to participate. It enjoys a very quiet, a very disengaged community, because when we are not paying attention, then they have the free way to do the things that are being done. When our national chairman brought on the floor of parliament that when they come and throw a heap of documents in the name of a financial bill and expect parliamentarians to zap within those thousands of papers and then come and defend a bill in parliament, which is impractical, he was able to fine-tune to one aspect where the government of Cameroon is talking about exporting 10 kilograms of gold. And then on the other hand, the UAE is saying that they received over 1,000 tons from Cameroon, and nobody is accounting for where all of that are going, has come from, or is going. That significant account was not put into the budget. Those are the things that we are missing out, for the simple fact that people are not able to check government. And that is what a system of federalism does. It puts the checks and balances to ensure that we know where our resources are going to, we know where the finances are coming from, and we know how to distribute these finances to meet our developmental challenges and engage with the local community. So when they keep promoting this narrative that, oh, it must be a coalition, oh, the opposition is nothing, it is because they don't want the people to participate. That particular newspaper made the error of thinking that the candidate was just Ni John Fru Ndi versus Paul Biya. No, Minister Bello Buba was also a candidate. Jean-Jacques Ekindi was a candidate. Gustave Esaka was a candidate. There were other candidates in that particular election, but the people had been conscientized to believe in a message of hope. There is one party today that is speaking about change. We are not asking to change a head. We are asking to change a system that has held us hostage for 43 years. And I believe that we are mature enough to understand and read through all of this that is being thrown at them. And come October 12th, people will turn out massively and support this call for change from bottom to top. Thank you, Nina.
Thank you so much, Mr. Benjamin Fru Ndi. You are a member of the SDF National Advisory Council. Thank you for your wonderful insights, especially detailing on what the SDF will be doing with regards to its policy of federalism, tackling the Anglophone crisis. We just looked at it at the surface level. Certainly, we'll have time to talk about it in detail subsequently. You also looked at how it could work within the context of local authorities like mayors, governors, the security, national security, and in terms of leadership as a whole. Thank you so much for your wonderful insights. And MMI can only wish you good luck and hope to have you some other time again.
Sure, Mimi. Thank you for giving me the platform to express myself. There's so much, as you know, we can keep on going on. But thank you for this opportunity, and certainly we will be talking in a very near future.
Thank you so much. And to Cameroonians, the ball is in your court. We here at MMI, we introduced this program, Road to Etoudi, so that you can be able to listen to all the candidates and make informed decisions about what you hear from them, their economic, their political, and their social policies. We are doing it for Cameroonians. For Cameroonians to look at the various politicians and their programs, scan through without emotions, so that you can be able to make decisions that would impact not just today, but the future of generations to come. Thank you so much for those who watch. And we want to also urge those who can to share so that this can go as far and wide as possible. But before we go, we have a brief commercial break. We will be coming back shortly. Do you want your child to succeed not only in school, but also in life? Then think Vichy Prestigious Nursery and Primary School, the VPNPS. Because every parent deserves more than just a school. They deserve a future for their children. At the VPNPS, we go beyond textbooks. We shape leaders, innovators, and confident achievers. Excellence in academy, a solid foundation that prepares learners for success at every stage. Confidence and character. We nurture children who shine in life, not just in school. A safe and nurturing environment where every child feels at home while reaching their full potential. Modern teaching approaches like lessons that blend knowledge, creativity, and practical skills. At VPNPS, our students don't wear uniforms. They wear confidence, purpose, and success. Enroll today at Vichy Prestigious Nursery and Primary School beside Nestle Minkwele, that is in Bonaberi, Douala, Cameroon. If you want to reach out to Vichy, if you want to call, the numbers are 678-903-8255 808 or 653-84-8993. Vichy prestigious nursery and primary school, ready for greatness. And we want to thank you for watching. We've come to the end of today's discussion. Hope that you listened to it and you found it insightful. If you did, like I said earlier, please share so that others can watch. I want to appreciate the entire MMI production team for Road to Etoudi, particularly the producer, Jodica Kerenue, and also Kingsley Sheteneu. They are putting in place a lot, and Stella as well. They're putting so much in place to make sure that this program takes place. Thank you so much. On behalf of the MMI team, I would want to say goodbye for now and talk to you again shortly. Bye.